Once again, this is Johnlewisbrooks reporting for duty at Numbers chapter 16, verse 31, and I think I'll finish it up for the day. And it came to pass, as he had made an end of speaking all these words, that the ground clave asunder that was under them. Notes. Now, this must have been a very fearful sight, and to be sure, many observed it. I wouldn't be surprised if somebody went over there and dug in the ground and found dead bodies somewhere. Verse 32, and the earth opened her mouth and swallowed them up, along with their houses and all the men that are pertained to Korah and all their goods. Notes, now obviously this speaks of the entirety of these three families of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. Verse 33, they and all that appertained to them went down alive into the pit, into hell itself, and the earth closed upon them, and they perished from among the congregation. And all Israel that were round about them fled at the cry of them, for they said, lest the earth swallow us up also. And there came out a fire from the Lord and consumed the 250 men who offered incense. Notes, from the Ark of the Covenant in the Holy of Holies, and it did exactly as it did Nadab and Abihu way back there in Leviticus chapter 10, right off the very first. Offering profane fire and giving profane, perverted faith, if you will, to the Lord is always going to be unacceptable. He wants you 100% or He doesn't want you at all. That's it. Verse 36, and the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, speak unto Eleazar the son of Aaron the priest, that he take up the censers out of the burning, and scatter thou the fire yonder, for they are hallowed. Notes. In other words, he's saying, pick them up from among the charred and smoldering corpses. The censers had been made holy by their proposed use, even though sacrilegiously. They pointed to Christ in His intercessory work. Verse 38, the censers of these sinners against their own souls, let them make them broad plates for a covering of the altar. For they offered them before the Lord, therefore they are hallowed, and they shall be a sign unto the children of Israel. Notes. Now, the people attempting to use them were very, very wrong, and their use in this manner was wrong. However, the censers were still hallowed because of what they represented. Now, this broad plates for a covering altar, this is obviously talking about the brazen altar. Everything used in the rituals and ceremonies of the tabernacles was in some way attached to the brazen altar, as everything presently, as it is pertaining to the Lord, well, it's obviously attached to the cross as well, of which the altar, of course, was a type. I'll go ahead and read the scripture. For they offered them before the Lord, therefore they are hallowed, and they shall be a sign unto the children of Israel. Notes. Now, probably every time they brought their sacrifices to be offered, they would see the altar and plates of the censers that covered the altar, in effect stating, don't blaspheme this altar. Don't tamper with it either. Do what you need to do and get done with it. Verse 39, and Eleazar the priest took the brazen censers wherewith they that were burnt had offered, and they were made of broad plates for a covering of the altar. Verse 40, to be a memorial unto the children of Israel, that no stranger which is not of the seed of Aaron come near to offer incense before the Lord, that he be not as Korah and as his company, as the Lord said to him by the hand of Moses. Notes. Unfortunately, under the new covenant, many are presently committing the very same sin that Korah did. They are substituting a government of their own making, basically. However, they must remember, as the cross is the means of all the blessings, at the same time, it is also the very means of judgment. You're going to be judged basically by what Christ did at the cross. If you believe in that and you trust in it and you do what you can to serve the Lord, things are going to be good. If you ignore all of that, well, things are going to be very, very bad. The gospel is so simple concerning that, you'd be amazed at how many people get it wrong. Verse 41, But on the morrow all the congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moses and Aaron, saying, You have killed the people of the Lord. Notes. Now they had in truth forfeited their own lives, and Moses and Aaron had no part in their death than Peter had in the deaths of Ananias and Sapphira. They didn't seem to realize that their own immunity from judgment was due to the intercession of them whom they were falsely charging. An evil heart that refuses to change simply will not. Verse 42. And it came to pass, when the congregation was gathered against Moses and against Aaron, that they looked toward the tabernacle of the congregation, and behold, the cloud of the congregation. And behold, the cloud covered it, and the glory of the Lord appeared. Notes. Now, once again, they were angered. They were angering the Lord, and they are fixing to get another dose of it. Verse 43. And Moses and Aaron came before the congregation of the tabernacle of the congregation. Verse 44. And the Lord spoke unto Moses, saying, Get you up from among this congregation, that I may consume them as in a moment. And they fell upon their faces. Now, notes. Now, once again, Moses intercedes on behalf of the people, even though they are murmuring constantly against him. We should learn here as to what the Lord thinks of such things like this. Verse 46. And Moses said unto Aaron, Take a censer, and put fire therein from off the altar, and put on incense, and go quickly unto the congregation, and make an atonement for them. For there is wrath gone out from the Lord, the plague is begun. Notes. Now, obviously, once I said it again, I'll say it again. The censer is obviously a symbolic of intercession of Christ, and the fire from the altar is typical of the cross. Now, there is no intimation in Scripture that this had ever been done before, and I speak of going among the people with incense. As it had no precedent, so it never seems to have been repeated. No sacrifice was offered. However, there could well have been a sacrifice on the altar at that time, with the blood poured out at the base. At any rate, though, the fire came from off the altar, where sacrifices were offered repeatedly, with the blood poured out at the base of the altar. So, in a sense, as should be obvious, there had been shedding of blood. Verse 47. And Aaron took as Moses commanded, and ran into the midst of the congregation, and behold, the plague was begun among the people. And he put on incense, and made an atonement for the people. Notes. Now, this is a portrayal in type of the gospel being taken to dying humanity against the plague of sin, in which there is no hope other than Christ and the cross. Verse 48. And he stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stayed. Notes. The only thing that stands between dying, lost humanity and eternal judgment is the cross of Christ. 1 Corinthians chapter 23, chapter 2, verse 2, Ephesians chapter 2, verse 13 and onward, and Colossians chapter 2, verse 14 and onward. Verse 49. Now they who died in the plague were 14,700, beside them who died about the matter of Korah. Notes. Now, obviously, we don't know exactly what this plague was, and evidently those who murmured against Moses and Aaron were stricken. Verse 50. And Aaron returned unto Moses unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and the plague was stayed. Notes. Now, as stated, there is only one thing that will stop the plague of sin and all of its effects, and that is the cross of Christ. When the modern church proposes humanistic psychology or any other supposed solution, it is tantamount to blasphemy against the Lord. The answer is the cross, and the cross will always be the answer. Now, we will have to pick up in chapter 17 of Numbers. Thank you very much.